evening, everyone, and welcome to MarketWatch 360 and our live business talk show. And great to see you guys again. And tonight, this is a very special guest. Look at me, I'm already nervous. And she's not just a guest, and she's also a good friend of mine. And we often had coffee together and talking about the business. She has a huge passion and towards entrepreneurship, and she's been helping a lot of local business owners herself. And welcome to the show, Beth.
Thank you.
And Beth is a business consultant in Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center, and she's been helping tons of the local business owners. And I am definitely excited to talk about her perspectives and her ideas about business after pandemic.
All right, let's get to it.
Yeah, and to start with, I know your story, but most of our audiences, they don't know your story yet. And so, would you like to share with us about your stories and how did you get started being a consultant?
Absolutely. So it all started back in graduate school. I did a master's degree, and my project was focused on a development of a small town in Costa Rica. I don't think I've told you this. And we worked on youth entrepreneurship and the idea of that, of helping long-term growth and development. And so when I was abroad for a long time, I would get back to the U.S. That's what I wanted to do. So I got back and I worked in youth entrepreneurship for a bit. But then I was drawn a little bit, I'm in the Bay Area, so I was drawn to the startup world. So I went and worked with an accelerator called Start Out that helps LGBTQ entrepreneurs. And I was there for 3 years and kind of helped build that, employee number 2. And then, but I realized what I really wanted to do was be back. I taught for a number of years. I wanted to combine teaching and engagement with students with my love for entrepreneurship and the importance of serving a population outside of the startup world, right? Which is, they tend to be doing fairly well. And so helping people who maybe were struggling a little bit more or didn't quite have the background and would really benefit from, it's particularly in the Bay Area, right? Making sure that they were thriving and they were succeeding, which is how I ended up with Renaissance Center.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Wow. Look, to start with, we're already digging out something that I don't even know. Okay, that's good. That's good starting point.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you like to share with us more about your journey with the Renaissance during pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually left my last job and thinking I was going to take a break because it just been kind of a brutal 3.5 years. Great, but right when you're building an accelerator, it's a lot. And then COVID hit. Oops. And so suddenly there weren't so many jobs. And I had a relationship with Renaissance Center from before my previous job. I'd done a little consulting with them. And so I got back in touch, and it just was a blessing for me that this all worked out. And I started with them in September, so about a year ago. So COVID was well underway, and I was thrown right into the reality. You know the reality from TV, right? But you don't know the reality until you really start talking to people.
Exactly, yeah.
A number of my clients were new business owners, right? So just optimistic are going to start. They were like, let's get planning now, and then we'll get ready. But I worked a lot with a lot of people, a lot of businesses because of the San Mateo County grants. So then I worked with a ton of businesses that just were crushed, right? I don't want to say destroyed because they're still there, still fighting, but crushed by COVID.
Yeah.
So that's where I really got most of my exposure, was not from the classes I teach, but from helping people with the grants and then follow-up consulting sessions that we did, around pivoting your business, about, just kind of what they wanted help with. But there was a lot of business pivoting going on, right? Moving online, e-commerce options, things like that. So yeah, that's been my base. Most of my experience with COVID has been helping the people who we've served through the grant. A lot of my other students, some of them joined us though, to be honest. They've had a business for 20 years and suddenly they had to pivot because of COVID, and they wanted help with a business planning course, right? Because a business planning course doesn't have to be about a new business. It could be about a new revenue stream, right? Or so they came on to get help to plan out this new business strategy, right? This new way to move forward. I loved those students because they had so much wisdom to give to the other students. But also, right, they were approaching COVID in the best possible way, right? This is an opportunity to, create new revenue streams to make the business better for the future, right? We've been forced into it. We didn't necessarily want to do it, right? But using it as an opportunity to make change that was going to be benefit for the long term for their business.
Right. So among all the business that you have seen, which category suffered the most during pandemic?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think restaurants, which yes, but unquestionably it was people who did physical services, massage, hair, nails. Those things were they weren't essential, or they weren't considered essential, and they were just shut down. And there was you don't get takeout massages. There's no alternative. They're just shut down. And so those, I think, were the people who I encountered the most, who they just had no income. They basically had to go get another job, right? That was the only way, or hopefully someone was supporting them. But that was the industry that, now luckily they don't have usually as much staff or overhead, right, as maybe a restaurant does, right? A restaurant often, they have a big built out kitchen. They've got, a huge space, a lot of rent. So that's huge pressure. And staff, they don't want to be letting go and bringing back and letting go, which I know was a big issue during the pandemic. But at least they could function in some way. And there were accommodations made with outdoor seating, with people doing services like massage and hair and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
And
so how did you, as a consultant, how did you help them?
Yes, I mean, some of them just simply weren't open, right? But some of them we moved to an e-commerce platform where they started to sell the products to their clients that they might have been buying when they came in.
Different channels online.
Yes. So maybe they bought those products when they came in, right, to get special hair product or special, cream or whatever that is. Now that the clients weren't coming in, so we were creating websites so they could sell that online. As a safety net's not the right word, but a bridge, right? It wasn't the big money maker. It wasn't what they did, right? But it's a bridge to get them. And now they have both, right? Now they have their in-person and they have their online business.
Way.
Yeah. Right. So yes. So for those people, I think COVID, there's some businesses that came out of it stronger and better.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a client who ran in-person art parties, right? An art teacher would go and they'd make jewelry or they'd make whatever that was, almost all for kids. And COVID hit and everything shut down, right? No in-person. And they scrambled and they set up virtual classes. And now suddenly, which they really would have never done. She's like, I didn't like virtual. I didn't think it was personal enough, but they had to. And maybe people wouldn't have done virtual except for they had to. And then both sides, the customer and the provider, both figured out that the virtual is not so bad. And it's kind of fun because you can have friends from all over. And what they really figured out was now instead of just clients in the Bay Area, they have clients all over the country. And now instead of just parents, their new target is corporations doing team events with their employees that are all over the place, right? And of course, you can charge corporations far more than you can charge parents. And so they have this brand new revenue stream making much, much more money. And they still do the family side of it. They just don't market it really because it's not as much of a money earner. And now they've turned to this corporate side, and it's just a much bigger revenue drive. And it's something they would have never done. Yeah,
that's really inspiring.
Yeah. Very proud of the work that they did. So, yeah. And I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's Dragonfly Design. So if anyone needs an art class, yeah.
Okay, that's good promotion.
Yes.
All right. So, what are the things that they did special, and to navigate in business?
That company in particular, or
that company?
I think it was, well, one, they moved quickly, right? They recognized the reality that things were going to be shut down, and instead of maybe dwelling in that, right? They were like, okay, the only way we're going to make this work and I'm going to keep my people employed is if we make a radical shift. And so the fast move meant that they were able to be kind of out front, right, before other people did it. But they were just, there's certain need to be flexible when you're an entrepreneur, right? It doesn't have to be COVID. You own a restaurant and someone starts there's construction next door and no one can even tell you're open anymore because there's like scaffolding all around you or whatever, right? That's destructive for business. So how are you creative around your marketing to let people know that you're there and you're still open, right? That's what being an entrepreneur is the flexibility to roll with what the crisis is, right? And to be creative about how to get through it, and hopefully you come through it even stronger. So
actually, you're not the first one, mentioning about this. Like, you have to move fast. Like, as a consultant, you mentioned, and my previous interviewees, and most of them are business owners, and they also, like, when I ask the similar question, the first answer came out was like, you have to move fast. You have to make decision fast. You can't just dwelling there and thinking and wondering. No, there's no time. So you have family, you have employees, and you have all those responsibilities. You have to take care of them. You have to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. But she was also poised to do that. I'm not certain how old she is, right? She's older than I am, in my 40s. She has adult children. So she wouldn't necessarily be a tech guru, and she isn't, but she's clearly someone who's made it a value of hers to keep learning and to stay up to date. And I think COVID hit people particularly hard who hadn't kind of valued the importance of staying relevant with technology, and the people who had, really, it wasn't such a crisis to move things online. And for people who are very basic level tech, and for some people it's because they don't have access to the tech, period, right? And that's one of the things, right, that we're really trying to figure out ways to address. Is for people who don't have access to the technology at all, right? Because how do you learn if you don't have access to it? But also, as an entrepreneur, if you do have access to it, I have a lot of clients who are like, oh, I don't know how to do it. I'm too scared, or I'm too old. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, there's no such thing as too old, and there's no such thing as I don't know, right? You have to take the initiative to go out and learn these things if you want to stay competitive and be relevant.
You have to be resourceful.
And hire somebody.
Yeah. If you really can't not do something, then just leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, but you can't hide from this. This is a reality. Yeah, the technology. Very few businesses can get away with not engaging with it. So
absolutely. That's why our show, one of the purposes is that we are bringing new information and bridging this kind of gap. Yeah. So what are the you mentioned about moving things online and helping the students structure their online how do you say that, online assets, right? So what are the things that you have been doing with your students and your clients?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, mostly, I mean, a lot of people genuinely didn't have websites, which is shocking, but there are a number of businesses. So just building them a functional online presence, right?
Wow.
That working with them, make sure they have a Google My Business, right? Because if you don't have SEO, is nothing compared to Google My Business if you're a local business, because you are discovered, right? If you're in the right location, they're going to find you. In a way that SEO, you have to beat out the whole country, the whole world for your keywords. But Google My Business is all built on location. So making sure people really understood kind of the very basics, the very fundamentals, because a lot of people didn't. And then, some people we built e-commerce pages for, a lot of Shopify building, a lot of getting people feeling confident, because Shopify, Squarespace, they're not hard, right? And so that was a lot of the work I did, was just helping people feel confident, trying things, exploring things. And then we just worked on, messaging, or or the reality, right? Oh, you're gonna do personal deliveries of this product you just sold. It's like, so how much time do you think you're gonna spend driving? I didn't think about that. How much you're gonna spend on gas? I was like, you're gonna need people to pick up, right? Or you're gonna have to charge twice as much, right? Realistically. Right. So talking about pricing and what it means to ship, what it means to deliver, those kind of things, because that's the hardest part, I think, unquestionably, about e-commerce, is the cost of shipping, the cost of delivery, that kind of stuff. So I guess I don't have a more sophisticated answer than that, but most people I work with, we're just trying to get them started, right?
Right.
Moving forward. A little SEO, some social media, but really just getting the foot in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So not even doing any like marketing. It's just the like basic.
Yeah. So
online like
we do
presence.
yes, we do some marketing, certainly, and a lot of them have like social media that exists but is connected to nothing. Right. It's connected. Right. There's no website to go buy from. There's no place where you can go really understand what the services are they offer or whatever. So they have the so that's great when that happens. You're like, here, let me just give you the platform you need, right, to sell. And you can sell on Instagram too, right, if that's where you want to be. Or you can have Shopify, and Shopify allows you to connect to Instagram directly, right? But just having these like aha moments with people, where they're like, oh, that's why. That's why it isn't working. I'm like, yeah, no one has a way to buy anything. Of course, they're not going to call you. That's not how people do this. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm surprised that most of the local business owners that they don't even like pay much attention.
It's not most, right? That's not the truth. I see the people who are that way. I don't think it's true that it's most, but I think we have really big divides, right? And so there are people who, whether it's the education or the experience or whatever it is, to feel comfortable tackling new things, experiencing new things, right? And they're more comfortable. And then there's kind of people who are like, no, I make cookies. And they want that to be what they do, right? Is make cookies. You're like, well, that's not what running a business is, right? You get to make cookies half the time, and eventually you won't make cookies at all. You'll pay someone else to do that. And you need to run the business if you're going to be a business owner. So having those conversations around the reality of running a business, that it's not about your passion is a part of it, but then you also have to keep your books and do the marketing and do the sales and do all the things that have nothing to do with your passion. And so really motivating people to recognize that succeeding is about being a great business person, not just producing a great product. And so again, that's the community that I'm working with. I'm not saying it's the whole community, right? I mean, if you're thriving in downtown Redwood City or downtown San Carlos, right? If you can own that, if you can afford to have that real estate, then you probably know what you're doing, right? It's a pretty good indication. But there's lots of other side businesses, side hustles. They just aren't. They have the product. They might be awesome, but they're not really sure how to get it out there, how to sell it. And so that's what I do.
Yeah, that's great. That I definitely believe that entrepreneurs need a community and to support.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So what's your advice, like for most of let's say most of the local businesses, after the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, right? We talked about one after pandemic. I hate to say it, I don't think we're at after pandemic yet, right? So doing risk assessments, recognizing the potential that things, that we could have a new mutation or something, and that things could shut down somewhat again, right? Luckily, we're in a county with super high vaccination rates, but having that risk assessment, knowing, what am I going to do if this happens? Did I make the pivot before? Just because we think we're done with COVID, should I still do that pivot? Am I now behind? Because everyone else pivoted, everyone else went online, and I didn't, right? That doesn't mean because COVID's over, you're scot-free. Now you're just one step behind everybody else who made the move. So recognizing that COVID changed everything, right? Everyone is far more comfortable. And I think it's in some ways great that people are far more comfortable engaging online and participating online. But if you're not in that space, you're that much further behind than you were a year and a half ago, right? We've made that much bigger of a leap. So I think business risk assessment and, making sure you're caught up is really important. And then the resilience, right? You just have to keep being resilient, just like we talked about. We're not there yet. We're not, even if we're through the pandemic, we're not through the reality of it. So yeah, but I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, the word resilience, you're like, yeah, of course, right? So I'm afraid I don't have the perfect answer. But I do think that, if you haven't made the step forward into the technological side, just because COVID's over, then you still need to make that step forward because everyone else did.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So what do you think about like social media marketing?
What do I think about it? I think it's great. I think, it's, people say it's a free tool. It's not free, right? Because it's your time, right? And so your time is valuable. And if you're spending your
Well,
time.
I would say it's free for posting,
Yes.
but it's not for real marketing. If you really want to do like seriously like doing the marketing, then that's definitely not free.
Yeah, absolutely. The ads. Yeah, ads. I think people need to recognize with social media, the biggest thing I encounter is people have a Twitter, a LinkedIn, a Facebook, an Instagram, a Pinterest. And, and I'm like, where's your target market? And my target market is, like 70-year-old women. And I was like, all right, I get Pinterest and I get Facebook, who are like quilting or something. But I don't think you need to be heavy on LinkedIn, right? Quilters, not big community. Instagram, probably not where those 70-year-old women. So I think social media marketing is great, but being smart about it and knowing that you have to invest in it, time and money. So you can't invest in everything. You need to be thoughtful about where you're investing. You need to be testing to see if it works, but you got to go to where your market is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think people don't realize that so many of my clients are trying to be everywhere.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Because when I'm sitting down with my clients and like the first thing we would talk about is clarity. Like clarity. I think clarity is definitely the top thing before we step into anything.
Yeah.
And then you need to have clarity about your target market.
Yes. Yes.
And then focus on why, not just trying to get everywhere. Like then you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. And don't think, I have clients all the time who talk about target market or customer segments. And they're like, well, everyone can be my customer. And I was like, okay, well, the word target market is that you're targeting your marketing time and money at a group. So would you want to try and market? She's like, I had an 80-year-old who I did this for. I was like, okay, so would you spend a lot of money marketing to 80-year-olds? No. I was like, okay, so they're out. An 80-year-old can come if they want to, but don't focus your marketing on them, right? Where is your core demographic? And have that conversation. I can't tell you how many people have aha moments on that, that they're like, oh, I just never thought about the fact that I can be the most efficient with my money and time if I go after the people most likely to buy my product. And then even if I'm excluding other people in the marketing, maybe they're going to find me and that's great. But yeah, a lot of people think they're missing opportunities if they don't market everywhere. I was like, well, you might be missing $20 in revenue, but you just spent $40 to make it happen. So you didn't miss anything. You lost $20 by making that, so those conversations that there's costs, to the marketing. So.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely they need to focus on one thing, one platform and to test and to go from there.
Exactly.
Right.
Super important. Yeah. And if anyone says everybody has to be on Instagram and writing 3 blog posts, anyone who says everybody has to do something, that's the person just knows about that thing. That's why they're saying this to you. There is no version of everybody has to. Right. And so remember that about your business. And just because someone else is like, oh, I have a friend and she's a hairdresser. And so she really focuses on Yelp. Like, okay, that's great. But you're in, I don't know what's not on Yelp. Trying to think of another, you're in professional services, right? You're a consultant. People are not reviewing business consultants on Yelp. You don't need to worry about Yelp, right? And so making people understand that just because their friend does it or it works for someone else, it doesn't mean it's going to work for them if it's not appropriate for their business.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
We talk about this actually with our previous guests and mentioning about like your family's friends, and they do have goodwill, but it does not mean that they're gonna help your business. Right.
Yes.
Goodwill doesn't equal to business. Business. Suggestions or success.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. And also I agree with you. But talking about Yelp, a lot of local businesses like heavily using those third party, including Yelp. Right. So what do you think about those third party platforms?
I'm not an expert in that space. I know Yelp. I actually have a number of friends who work at Yelp, so hopefully they don't watch this. But I know Yelp can be pretty aggressive, right? And if you really want to make things happen, they keep upselling you more and more money as a business owner in a way that like Google wants you on doing things on Google because they want to be the place everybody goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be the number one resource. So they're not going to charge you. And the Google ads, obviously they're charging you, but they're not quite as aggressive as Yelp is. And I'm not an expert on those things, but I've had so many clients come back to me with, I've had such a terrible experience with Yelp that I kind of, if people say to me, I don't want to be here anymore, I feel like if they find if you're not finding any success with it, then don't stay with it if it's not working for you.
Yeah, and another thing is besides those the commissions and the percentage that they charge by using their platform, and also that you don't keep your data.
Right.
Your data will always be on Yelp or like some of the other like Uber Eats or third-party platform, right?
Yep.
And meaning that you have to continuing paying commission
to be able to reach out to the people who you
So do you think that in after this pandemic thing, people should be like, as a business owner, that they should be taking care of their data and to make sure that utilize those data and nurturing like further relationship with their clients?
Of course, right? And I want to say this, when you said taking care of your data, I'm just going to do a little plug for the idea of being super hyper careful with cybersecurity. I know when you say take care of your data, you mean that you really need to keep your data, understand who your clients are. But I'm going to put a little, just because a lot of people don't think about it. It's a real thing. It's most cybersecurity attacks are small businesses. They're not the big ones we hear about in the news. And like 80% of small businesses that get a cyber attack go out of business because of the requirements. If you leak information from people, the notification requirements, the lawsuits, the lawyers, all of that, it drives most businesses out of business. So just be very thoughtful with how you engage with your client data if you're collecting it, and do some research on insurance or on ways to protect yourself. But back to what you were saying. Yes, I mean, you might not even understand who your clients are unless you're collecting your client data, right? You have this idea of who your clients are, right? But they run in and grab their lunch or whatever, right? You don't know who they are, or someone picks up their lunch and delivers to them. Maybe you know their neighborhood, right? But client data, finding out from people, talking to customers, right? Engaging and learning why they're there.
And also collecting if you utilize the data in the right way, that collecting those data can help you better serve your clients.
Oh, for sure.
Like think about it, if you have your client's date of birth and you know that sending them a very nice birthday gift, a birthday dinner or whatever that you're doing.
My Baskin Robbins free ice cream. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, right? And then I think that's the way that you can continue nurturing your clients, because the reason why they become your clients because they love the thing that you do. Right. And but you cannot just sell them thing and just getting the relationship from selling, and you have to continue nurturing how, like by before, I think most people are just using newsletters, and then right now there are actually multiple ways that you can nurture the relationships, and by writing some blogs or just giving them some tips about your niche, like daily base or on weekly base.
Yeah, you know what I love is in newsletters or whatever, but is celebrating customers, right? It's such a great way to build community if in your newsletter
I like that.
You're celebrating your customers. So if they on Instagram they post it or whatever, and you can grab that and be like, hey, we're so excited that Katie at whatever, loved our chicken tacos. And then people are like, I'm in the newsletter, right? So now they feel part of the community. They feel seen and recognized. So I love that kind of overlap from social media to email, because somehow email, it feels more formal, right? Everyone's on social media, but if they picked you out, they celebrated you in particular on the newsletter, or a couple people, right? That really helps, I think, build community. It helps people open because they want to see if they got, if they got featured in this email.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right. And also I want to bring it up, is that there are actually many tools and softwares can help you like continuing building this relationship and celebrating for your clients. You don't really have to do that manually.
Yes.
But most people don't know that.
Yes.
You don't really have to do that manually, and you can send not just the email but text message, because text message sometimes is more efficient.
Yes.
If you can just send a birthday gift and with a link,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
make sure it's not scam message. make sure it's good, right? And then just send it out, and then who doesn't like a birthday gift? Especially from your like from your favorite like store, from your favorite restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just thanks for being our client, get 20% off today, right? Those like urgent, they work. You're like, oh, it's only today, I better go in, and I might not have gone in for.
By the way, and those are actually ways that you can not just building the relationship with the clients, but also promoting your stuff for free, because that's that's your database.
Yeah.
And those are your clients, and sending out email and text messages doesn't cost much at all.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just you just have to think to the next level.
Yes. Yeah. And it might take investment, right? And that's what's scary, right? But if there are services out there that can help you. And if you want to be ready to move quickly, if you want to be able to grow, then you have to be able to take the risk, do the next thing, find out what works. So yeah, exactly.
That's what we do, right?
Yes.
That's what we do. And so what's I know that you're also entrepreneur yourself, right? So what's your thoughts as an entrepreneur?
What's my thought? Just in general?
In general, yeah. Just being part of this community.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, right? I love, so my students often say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur so I can work less. And I was like, oh, that's no. You might be an entrepreneur so that you can control your schedule and have some flexibility depending on what kind of business you're in, right? If you're in a restaurant, the flexibility probably there's none, because you've got to be open when you're open. If you're a consultant like I am, right, a professional consultant in particular, right, you get to add flexibility to your life. So if you have kids, and you want to make sure you're available when you need to be available, being an entrepreneur can be fabulous, but just know that it's not easier, right? That's not a real thing. It's more work, but it's your work. It's what you decided you were going to do, right? And so that is very inspiring and motivating. And for me, it's easier to do more work when it's my business than when it was somebody else's. And I get to set the priorities, right? I think that's super great, because sometimes it can be frustrating to have someone pass down work. You're like, this doesn't make sense, doesn't align with my priorities or what needs to get done. So, but be honest with yourself when you're going to be an entrepreneur. Don't do it for less work. That's not a real thing. But it's exciting, it's thrilling, but you need to be a risk taker. You need to be someone who's, willing to always learn, right? That whole growth mindset, fixed mindset thing, right? It's a little played out, but it's important. You have to be, you can't say I'm not good at math, right? Okay, maybe if you are bad at math, so I can't do my finances. You have to do your finances. Maybe you have to hire someone to help you if you can, but if you're like, oh, I don't have the money for that, then you need to, double down, find it, go to SCORE, go to Renaissance Center, go to a place that will help you, right? And learn how to keep your books. It's multiplication, division, adding, subtracting for the most part. That's what, the books are. Right. So you can do it. But if you have this attitude that you can't, then you can't, right? And then you probably can't be an entrepreneur if that's how you approach things. So yeah, willingness to learn, willingness to change. You got to change if you're being an entrepreneur. So yeah.
So do you enjoy this journey?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it too, because I'm not going to say every day I wake up and I'm like, yes, I'm going to have 7 meetings today, right? It's not always how I feel. Once I get into those meetings, maybe occasionally I'm like, oh, this is exhausting. But for the most part, those hours go by quickly. I love helping people. I love learning about their business. And so I found something I really do love to do. And, the old cliche, right? Do what you love, right? It's still work. Come on. It's still work, but it's great. And so I've loved the journey, and I'm exploring new ideas and ways to reach more people, and really help facilitate I really believe that entrepreneurs, the most important thing is entrepreneurs supporting and teaching entrepreneurs. So I'm a little more interested in being a facilitator of that than maybe a direct teacher, because I'm not an expert in everything, right?
No
I
one.
can't be. And so much better to be able to help connect the people to each other who can, who can provide answers, and talk out, I've never been a restaurant owner through COVID. I've never been, so it's important to be able to have those conversations with those people who have experienced it too. So, yeah.
So you emphasized education. And what are the other things that you think as an entrepreneur that you need to pay extreme attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's business trends, right? Like marketing trends, right? You have to be, and this is, I always say, you can't be someone who's like, oh, I'm too old for X, Y, and Z, too old for Instagram, too old for TikTok, except for I am too old for TikTok. You have to stay relevant. If your business is going to stay relevant, you have to stay relevant. And I think marketing is one of the things that changes the fastest of all of the business, right? Accounting's not changing very fast, right? You can learn that and you can feel pretty comfortable that you know what you're doing and you have your account. But marketing is radically different than it was 5 years ago. It's completely different than it was 10 years ago.
Right, exactly.
Yes. And so you have to stay relevant on marketing and social media so that you know how to get the word out to the people you need to get the word out.
By the way, talking about marketing, I just want to step in a little bit. So marketing is not just the posting. Definitely not. It's just it's the basic thing. But there are so many other tools and bots and softwares that can literally help you do the marketing. You don't have to do that yourself.
Yeah, but then you have to know that. You have to stay relevant, right? And
Right.
keep up to date.
You have to reach out. That's the thing. You have
Yeah.
to reach out and to learn. Again, you have to learn and to do the research and to start testing different, technologies.
Yeah, so I think of all of the kind of core business things that you need to stay relevant with, it's marketing. A lot, legal doesn't change that much, and
No.
accounting doesn't change
But
that much, but marketing,
yes, changing daily.
yes. It's a little intimidating. Even for me, it's a little intimidating how quickly it changes, right? And how much you have to stay on top of. I forgot what the question was. I forgot our question. But yes, stay relevant on marketing and obviously your industry, right? You need to stay relevant with the industry and changes that are happening there, because
the change in your industry.
yes, because
right?
your competitors are a risk. They're a threat to you, right? And so you have to be able to manage that risk by staying relevant and making changes that your customers want, which means you need customer data and you need to be talking to your customers and getting information from them. So yes.
And continue building this relationship in different ways, in different channels.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. That's why people saying that entrepreneurship journey is actually the top one personal development journey.
Yeah. And what you learn as being an entrepreneur is you learn how to learn and you learn how to problem solve. You don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers.
No one
right?
does.
The most successful entrepreneurs are people who are willing to tackle problems and problem solve more than people who know a lot, right? That's not how it works. You don't just know things. That's not useful. Also, by the way, guys, if you read business books, you take classes, awesome. Make sure you sit down and think about how you're going to apply them to your business. Don't learn for learning's sake. Learn for application.
I love that part.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn for learning's sake, but for business purposes, apply it to your business.
Exactly. I used to be a big reader. I read a lot of books, and I literally set up at the beginning of the year, I set up goals and how many books I always overachieve. But back then, I didn't do much in business. I read a lot. I know a lot. I was really knowledgeable, but I did not do that much. So my pace in business did not catch up with my reading pace, right?
Yes.
So that was very sad. So I didn't move a lot in business.
Yeah. Well, you just have to be intentional about what you're learning and learn it for your business's sake, right? Yeah.
So what are you optimistic about this post-pandemic, and what's your definition about the new era?
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic about the fact, I know that for a lot of people, that COVID was a complete crisis, but a lot of businesses, like the one I talked about, the art class business, I see a lot of businesses who found opportunity in it, right? Found new markets that they could engage with online, made, heck, some restaurants, right, that created these spectacular outdoor spaces that I hope they get to keep, right? Because now it's even more desirable to go there. So there are certainly, I'm optimistic because a lot of people learned a lot, right? We were pushed into this situation where we all had to learn a lot. And so hopefully that's something that can help people who were maybe left behind catch up a little bit. And if you're still feeling left behind, come see some people at Renaissance or SCORE or whatever to help you catch up, because it's really important.
Right, or apply for business consultation, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about this? Like, what is your definition of the new normal?
Well, if you're able to, your clients can be all over the world, right? Like at least all over the country. So
Love that.
yeah,
You're stretching people's vision.
yeah. So it's there now. Everyone's comfortable buying from all over the country. They're comfortable engaging from all over the country, the world. So get out there, find a new market. Yeah.
And then testing out different marketing strategies as well, and just be open-minded and continue learning. Again, be hopeful and never give up.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
No problem. This is great. It's a delight.
Thank you so much for having Beth. And I definitely believe that most of you here tonight learned a ton from her, including myself. Well, we had a coffee a few times, but tonight, wow, I learned in a deeper level. I loved it. I love it. And I love
great
that.
time.
Yeah,
I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Of course. And thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your knowledge and your insights with our audiences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight. And time flies, but we'll see you next week at the same time. Have a very good evening. Bye, everyone.